protecting a sex trafficking ring in exchange for free sex from the victims, the trafficked women. The lawsuit names the former Fairfax County Police Chief, Ed Rossler, as a defendant in this lawsuit, alleging that he helped cover up for the officers when another detective's work threatened to expose their wrongdoing. The suit was filed on behalf of a Costa Rican woman identified in the lawsuit only as Jane Doe. It says that the officers would tip off the trafficking ring to suspend its advertisements on sites like Backpage.com in advance of sting operations run by the police. And so the woman who came forward noted that she was basically contacted, told that she could come to the United States to work as an escort. And so she, obviously is in a terrible economic situation, considered it, comes to the United States. Her passport was allegedly immediately taken away from her, and she was forced into the sex industry, sex trafficking. And now there's been enough of an investigation to find, prosecute, and convict the head of that sex trafficking ring. I have more details, but Cenk, why don't you jump in?
Yeah, so look, there's criminal wrongdoing, I believe, on the part of the police here in this case. There was a civil suit against the person who ran this, and it's abhorrent. And the person that was involved that is bringing both matters to the forefront here says, they told me that I was gonna go and be an escort. Now she's honest about that, right? But for wealthy individuals, and it was to date them. Now maybe she was naive, maybe she was not quite so naive, but thought it was high end, and I don't judge anybody, right? But instead, they took the passport away and then they threatened them instantly and forced them into this trade. And where on average, they were forced to have sex with 17 different clients per day. Okay, now when the police see this, are we ready for police to protect and serve us and the community, et cetera? Don't be ridiculous. They think, how could I be number 18? And that is part of what leads to this story.
So let's talk a little bit about who these cops are. Luckily, they're no longer with the force. But what I found fascinating about this story was the lawyer representing the woman who came forward was trying to work with the police department, not just for some sort of financial settlement, but for accountability toward the two cops who are implicated in this. And they basically told him to kick rocks. Now, when lawyer Victor Glassberg, that's the one representing Jane Doe in this story, when he first filed the lawsuit, he did not know the identities of the officers who were allegedly involved because his client was never able to learn their names. But then he later obtained a court order requiring the police department to identify the officers described in the complaint. Police responded with two names, Michael Barbazette and Jason Mardoko. Neither of them remains on the force, but that is one part of the problem. The bigger part of the problem is what we see in many police stories that we cover on this show, usually stories involving excessive force. The department seems to have covered up the wrongdoing. And when there was a detective who was working to uncover what was really going on, that detective's work was immediately put to a stop, right? So as Detective William Wolf pressed his efforts to investigate, he said he was threatened by high-ranking officers. He said he even received a call from Rossler, that's the police chief who has since stepped down, by the way, whose voice he recognized even though he did not identify himself, saying, quote, "I need to make sure you're willing to play ball," according to the lawsuit.
Of course, thin blue line. It does.